What's up, losers? Today I'm back with some more r/fatlogic shenanigans, taking a look at a couple of posts that caught my attention, and sharing my thoughts on them. I'll probably throw in a few jokes too, for good measure. This is episode 57 in the fatlogic series, and today's posts are looking extra juicy. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Fat people are cooler than people in normative bodies. No polite way to say that. I'm always talking about all the ways that fat people suffer because of their marginalization. But today, I want to talk about an amazing way that we are different. We are counterculture, which is inherently cooler, more innovative, more adaptable, and more progressive than the mainstream. We are the early adopters, the creatives, the trendsetters. We've been sewing our own sheet since the 7th grade. We've been turning sheet into gold since birth. We are the alchemists. When you see a fat girl whose aesthetic you admire, reflect on the fact that finding or creating the clothes she's wearing took 10 times the effort it takes for a normative body to walk into the nearest shop and pull something off the rack. When someone compliments my style, I want to say, thanks. It's because I'm fat. The style you are admiring came to fruition because I had to learn how to create. In order to have anything to wear, it gained edge and neon, because I refused to be invisible the way most people, and most plus-size clothing, asked me to be when I was growing up. This might sound trite, when considering the systemic oppression that fat people face, but maybe it will move the girl waffling on the edge of fat liberation over into our camp. Come on over. You can sit with us.
Ha ha ha, wow. This might legitimately be my favorite fatlogic post ever. It's just so perfect. The thought of someone actually sitting down, typing all of this out, and then posting it for the world to see, is so indescribably hilarious, that it took me like a whole minute to stop laughing, and regain my composure enough to attempt to respond to it. This isn't even a fat thing really, though that does make it funnier. But like, who on earth would write a multi-paragraph essay like this about how cool they are? The word cringe doesn't even capture it. We're way past that. This is on another plane of second-hand embarrassment. As a general rule, people who are really cool don't have to convince everyone of their coolness, or provide a bunch of reasons for why they should be considered cool. Because everyone already knows that they're cool, and it goes without saying. Coolness is meant to be felt, not negotiated, or petitioned for like this LMAO. And let's not act like being fat is some bold, countercultural statement, or something like, you're fat because you can't control your eating. Not because you're some badass maverick or whatever, having to make your own clothes. Because you literally can't find clothes massive enough to accommodate you in stores. Is not cool. It's just alarming. The damage that you're doing to your body by existing at that size is tremendous. And it's not something that should be glorified in any way. There's nothing innovative, progressive, aesthetic, or trendy about type 2 diabetes. It's just sad. Thankfully, I'm not too worried about this fat is cool idea catching on amongst normal people. Because nobody who's not already living in the fat acceptance fantasy world is going to read this post and think that the person who wrote it is cool in any way. They're probably just going to think the person is vain, narcissistic, and more than a little delusional. But just in case, I'll also speak to that fat girl waffling on the edge of fat liberation. Don't go and sit at their table. They'll make you paint your face, wear giant shoes, and ride a unicycle. No, put down the waffles, and come sit with the rest of us, who aren't, clowns. We'll have fun together, I promise. Oh yeah, and as a final note, what's with the use of the term normative bodies? Do they think that it's making them sound sophisticated, or edgy, or something? Because it's not working, haha. Just say thin.
People will say, fat people have no willpower. When we do shit that requires willpower on a daily basis. I didn't stop drinking without willpower. It's just another way of blaming fat people for their existence.
This post is a great example of the fat acceptance tendency to turn criticism of specific behaviors or characteristics into attacks on whole people. I assume that they do this because it makes their opponents look bad. But it could just be defensiveness. Either way, it's not a fair response. And it misses the point of the criticism that has been offered almost entirely. When someone says that a fat person lacks willpower, the point is not to just insult them, or provide an overall assessment of their value as a person. It's to identify a deficiency that they appear to have in one particular aspect of their life, i.e., the diet, and link this deficiency to their observable physical state. Whether you think this is a helpful way of talking about fatness is up for debate. I tend to think that it's better to focus on what fat people might do differently, rather than what is wrong with them. That is resulting in the issue. But that's a separate discussion. The underlying thinking that someone can exhibit a lack of willpower in one part of their life, like food, and an abundance of willpower in another, like alcohol, does not seem that difficult to grasp. Not for me, at least. People are all different, and life is complicated. We all have different vices and virtues, strengths and weaknesses, and personal quirks. If someone says that your obesity is caused by a lack of willpower, they are not saying that you are a completely useless person who is unable to stand firm on anything whatsoever. They are just saying that when it comes right down to it, the choices you make, and those that you don't, are what determines your size. It's not genetics, or socioeconomics, or life experience, though those may be influential. It is, ultimately, about your ability to exert your will over your baser impulses, and say no to food that you don't need. And if you are repeatedly unable to do that, even as it causes significant damage to your body and lifestyle, it becomes hard to deny that your willpower has failed. So I guess the real question that remains, after all of that, is what are you going to do about it?
Anyone else feel like this recent obsession with gut health can be just an excuse to be super careful around and restrict food? Feels like eating for gut health is the new clean eating.
Okay, so I mainly appreciate this one for its amusingly conspiratorial tone. It really sounds like they're talking about some sinister government cover-up or something, haha. Rather than other people's totally unremarkable diet choices. But since we're feeling skeptical, I guess I'll throw my own theory out there too. Maybe the obsession with gut health is actually about aliens. Gasps. Yeah, I know. Crazy, right? But it's legit. Trust me. I read some dude's blog about it one time. Very convincing. Look into it. Kidding aside, yeah, I don't know much about gut health. Presumably people have their reasons for caring about the gut, and eating foods that are beneficial to it. But really, that's neither here nor there, as far as I'm concerned. No, what really stands out from this post is the apparent assumption these people have that people need a justification to be careful around, or restrict food. Like, newsflash, people are allowed to eat however they want. And that includes being selective around the diet, and even restricting. They don't need to ask permission from you, or anyone else. I don't know where these fat activists got the idea that everyone else has to play by their rules. But it's funny to see how detached they are from the way normal people think. Like, most people don't think that trying to eat healthy foods, or restricting one's intake to some extent, are scandalous or dangerous behaviors. They're just considered a part of everyday life. If anything, it's the fat acceptance approach of constantly gorging oneself without any kind of restraint that's considered weird and unhealthy. And rightly so, I might add. Most people want to be healthy. And most people want to be thin. And they understand that dietary selection and restriction contribute towards achieving those goals. It's not a scandal, and it's not a conspiracy. It's just normal life. Sarah. Yeah, I think you guys are the weird ones. Sorry to break it to you. Well, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed reading the posts with me, and hearing my takes on them. What do you think? Are fat people cooler than thin people? Do fat people have willpower? Is eating for gut health actually just an excuse for restriction? Let me know in the comments. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, or I'll make you go and sit at the fat liberation table with all the cool kids. Just kidding, haha. Anyway, catch you later.